I'm Penny.
3 weeks ago, I sold my $350,000 condo to a developer and then disappeared. My phone has been bombarded with 79 missed calls, 47 text messages. There's an email from my mother with a subject line in all caps. "What have you done?" And a 2A.
M.
Text from my sister, Lisa, saying, "Penny, they're saying we have 30 days to move out. Where are the kids supposed to go?" I didn't answer. It's not that I'm heartless. I've spent my whole life answering their demands, explaining myself, and accommodating them, yet it's never enough. Let me take you back to what led me to this point. I come from a family with a very different dynamic. My father, George, is a retired school principal. He's a man of few words, often choosing to stay silent rather than stand up for what's right. My mother, Carol, is a controlling woman. She runs the family like a strict dictator, where loyalty means blind obedience, and questioning her is considered a betrayal. I have a younger sister, Lisa, who's 2 years younger than me. She's always been the needy one in the family. While I was busy studying hard, working multiple part-time jobs during college, and interning during summers, Lisa was partying and dropping out of college with a huge student loan debt. In my mother's eyes, I was just lucky, and I owed it to Lisa to help her out. The requests for money started small. First, it was $20 for a coffee date, then $100 for a new dress. When her husband, Tom, lost his job, it became $500 at a time. I never refused. I just thought it was my duty as a sister. 3 years ago, I bought a condo in a developing neighborhood in San Francisco. It was a 2-bedroom place with a beautiful view of the city. I worked my fingers to the bone, saving every penny, doing side gigs, and skipping vacations I couldn't afford. Last December, I finally paid off the mortgage. That day, I sat on the living room floor and cried with relief, knowing that I had achieved something on my own, independent of my family's expectations. As the neighborhood developed, the value of my condo soared. My mother started making snide remarks every time I visited home. "You live alone in all that space. Lisa's kids are cramped in a tiny apartment," she'd say. One Christmas, I received an invitation to a family-only dinner. I should have known better. Family celebrations in our family always came at a cost. When I arrived at my parents' house, it was decorated as usual, with a warm and cozy atmosphere. I brought gifts for everyone, a luxury perfume for my mother, a new golf club for my father, art supplies for my niece Mia, who's 6, and a toy train for my nephew Ben, who's 4. For Lisa, I got a gift card to her favorite clothing store. After dinner, I offered to help with the dishes. As I was washing the plates in the kitchen, I overheard a conversation that shattered my world. "Penny leaves for New York on January 2nd for a business trip. Dad will get the spare key," Lisa said. "He'll say he's watering her plants. We'll move in on January 3rd before she comes back. Change the locks right away." What can she do? Call the cops on her own sister? My mother laughed and said, "Penny won't do anything. She'll cry a bit and then get over it. That condo is wasted on her anyway." I was frozen in shock. My hands were trembling and my heart was pounding. I wanted to storm in and confront them, but I held back. Years of dealing with risk in my job had taught me to think before I act. I finished washing the dishes calmly and walked back to the living room as if nothing had happened. Later that night, Lisa found me on the back porch. "New York, huh? Must be nice for a business trip." "I haven't been on a plane in ages," she said with a hint of envy. She also casually asked about who was watching my place while I was gone. I told her my dad would water the plants. Then she started talking about how the neighborhood was changing and if anyone had made me an offer on my condo. I told her I wasn't interested in selling. When I got home that night, I called my friend, Amy. I told her everything about the plan I'd overheard. She asked me what I was going to do. I was at a crossroads. I'd been offered a permanent position as a senior risk analyst in the New York office for months, but I'd been hesitant to leave San Francisco. But now, what was I holding on to? I also realized that developers had been calling me about buying the whole block, including my unit. After talking to Amy, I decided it was time to take control of my life. I messaged my real estate lawyer, Jack. I told him I needed to meet him urgently on the 26th to discuss all my options, including selling. He replied right away, saying he'd clear his schedule. On the day after Christmas, I went to Jack's office. I told him about the kitchen conversation and the plan to move into my condo while I was gone. He laid out 2 options for me. Option 1 was to wait for them to trespass and then call the police. But he warned me that they could claim I'd given them verbal permission, and it would turn into a long, drawn-out civil court case. Option 2 was to sell the condo. The new owner would handle the eviction, and I wouldn't be the bad guy. I met with the developer, Mr. Johnson. He offered me 18% above the market value, with a cash closing in 10 business days. He needed my unit to complete his project. I asked him if anyone else had contacted him about my condo, and he said a woman claiming to represent her sister had called a couple of months ago, but he declined because they don't work through unauthorized parties. That was Lisa, circling my home like a vulture while I was still sending her money. On New Year's Eve, I went to my uncle's house. Lisa and Tom were there, acting as if they'd already won. Lisa was telling everyone about their new place in January, and my mother was backing her up, saying I was always so generous. I just smiled and said, "Family helps family, right?" That night, back in my condo, I had 2 important emails on my screen. One was from Jack with the final paperwork for the condo sale, and the other was from HR confirming my transfer to New York. I'd been afraid to accept either for so long, afraid of being seen as selfish. But looking around my condo, I realized that in their minds, this place had never truly been mine. At midnight, I accepted the New York transfer and signed the condo sale documents. I whispered to myself, I'm not selling because of them. I'm selling because I'm finally ready to start my own life. On January 2nd, I boarded my flight to New York with just a carry-on and a laptop bag. Before takeoff, I called my father and asked him to water my plants and feed my fish, Bubbles. He just grunted and said he'd do it. On January 3rd, I saw on Instagram that Lisa had posted pictures of my living room with boxes everywhere. They were making themselves at home, completely unaware that they were in a place scheduled for demolition. On January 10th, in New York, I got a call from Jack saying the deal was closed and the funds had been transferred to my account. He asked if I was sure about this, and I said I was. I felt a strange sense of lightness, as if I'd finally shed a heavy burden. On January 18th, my phone started going crazy with missed calls and angry text messages. Lisa was panicked, saying there were people with papers telling them to leave in 30 days. My mother was furious, saying I'd betrayed the family. My father didn't leave a message, just heavy breathing. I read all their messages carefully. Not one of them said sorry. Not one of them acknowledged that they'd tried to steal my home. I watched Lisa's name flash on the screen and let it go to voicemail. Then I turned off my phone. Over the next 48 hours, the calls and messages continued. They went through stages of confusion, anger, guilt, tripping, threats, and bargaining. But I stood my ground. On January 21st, I sent them an email stating the facts. I'd sold my condo legally, and the new owners had issued a 30-day notice. I said I wouldn't discuss it further and recommended they contact local housing resources if they needed help. Their responses were predictable. Lisa said it was unfair, Tom said it wasn't over, and my mother said she didn't recognize me anymore. But I didn't let their words hurt me. Something inside me had changed. As the 30-day deadline approached, I heard from Amy that Lisa and Tom had nowhere to go. Their friends and family refused to help them, and in the end, they moved into my parents' house. My mother was losing her mind, realizing that helping Lisa meant living with her chaotic family. Spring came in New York, and I found a lovely studio apartment near Central Park. My new job is challenging but fulfilling. I've started to analyze the risks in my relationships and invest my emotional energy more wisely. 6 months later, I got a text from Lisa. She said she'd found a full-time job and they'd moved into a new apartment. She said she was trying to change. I replied with a simple, "Thank you for letting me know." I've thought a lot about why they did what they did. My mother and Lisa have a warped sense of family, where taking from others is considered normal. But I've learned that I have the right to set boundaries. I'm no longer the family ATM. I'm finally free to live my own life. If you've ever had to set boundaries with your family, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. It's not easy, but it's worth it for your own well-being. Take care of yourselves. You deserve it.